So, the creation of Wonder Woman came out of a polyamorous three-way romantic relationship with traces of BDSM with it. Why wasn't this biopic made any sooner? What is up, everybody? Random Random Man here, bringing you my review for Professor Marston and the Wonder Women. Based on true life events, the plot basically follows the title character, William Morton Marston, played by Luke Evans, a psychology professor at Harvard University who, with his wife Elizabeth, played by Rebecca Hall, proposed to study a student, Olive Byrne, played by Bella Heathcote, to test out what Marston has been teaching in class while also developing the prototype for the lie detector. What comes out of all of this is a polyamorous romantic relationship between these three individuals while creating the inspiration for the comic book character Wonder Woman, and Marston having to deal with the backlash involving his character. Going into this movie, I had moderate expectations. I was only mildly interested in seeing this film because I wondered, haha, pun intended, how intriguing of a movie this would be if it's just about the creation of the most popular female superhero of all time, Wonder Woman. That is until I found out what was shown with the plot in the trailers for this film, who was in the movie, and this film coming out a mere 4 months or so after the boffo success that was Wonder Woman this past summer, her first solo theatrical film release. I really enjoyed Wonder Woman, as I said, for my review of this film, and I'm sure it was no coincidence or accident that Professor Marston and the Wonder Women is coming out the same year as Wonder Woman. With the cast and their performances, Luke Evans is really charismatic as our title character. He is interesting to say the least because of where he is coming from. He is a psychology professor involved in eventually creating this comic book character, but also what he was doing in working with his wife Elizabeth, played excellently by Rebecca Hall. She is very stern in this movie, has a grasp in being stubborn just like I am in real life, but just also her getting involved with her husband's ventures was nice to see, especially once we are introduced to Olive Byrne, played by Bella Heathcote. She also delivers a very good performance in this movie too, and once all three of our lead characters get romantically involved with each other, it was strange to see at first, but then as the movie progressed, and not long after they all announced their love for one another, it was fascinating. I mean, in real life, it is very odd and strange to see three people in a romantic relationship with each other, but this movie somehow made it really tangible and just believable that all three of these characters would really be in love with one another. The chemistry between these three characters is out of control. Crazy good chemistry. Other supporting players in this movie include J.J. Field as the fetish enthusiast who gets all three of our leads involved within the BDSM scene. For a bit part that he had, he was amusing to see on screen. We also have Oliver Platt as Max Gaines, the guy who helps Marston publish Wonder Woman as a character in comics and propel her to big success. And finally, we have Connie Britton as the staunch enemy of Marston, who is condemning the comics that he helped create. Everyone in this movie simply does excellent jobs. The way the story plays out in this film, just like how the polyamorous relationship is portrayed, is fascinating. Right from the get-go, I was riveted to see how this relationship would play out even before these characters announce their love for one another. It is unconventional. Like I said before, in real life, it is pretty weird to be involved with more than one person, but of course this movie is based on true life events. So it just really absorbed me to see how believable the relationship was. At first, this being for psychology purposes, and it was really cool to know that Professor Marston helped develop the lie detector. But then with the eventual creation of Wonder Woman, I knew that would happen, but I almost forgot that was even in the movie because of how sucked in I was in the relationship between Marston, his wife, and Olive Byrne, the student. Much credit to how engaged I was with this film goes to the main woman behind the camera, as yes, just like how Wonder Woman was directed by a woman, Patty Jenkins, Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman is written and directed by Angela Robinson. I've actually seen a previous film of hers, Herbie Fully Loaded, starring Lindsay Lohan. Oh, the nostalgia with that. But how Robinson handles the subject matter that she's given here with Professor Marston and his Wonder Women that helped inspire the creation of Wonder Woman, it's superbly done. She does a great job handling this material, done in very good taste, even when we go into the more steamy aspects of this movie where the three leads get involved with BDSM, and then it goes into more of the creative tidbits that go with Wonder Woman developing as a character. Now, I haven't seen any of those shitty 50 Shades of Grey movies, but the BDSM tackled here is pretty tame, I would say. The movie's not that graphic when it does go into the sex scenes with Marston and his Wonder Woman. Yet, when we get into how BDSM plays a big part in how Wonder Woman was created, it just added to the intrigue for me because I was so sucked into what was going on screen. Those intimate love scenes were pretty well handled, well shot. I mean, I'm not saying that I enjoyed them too much because they involved attractive leads, but in all seriousness, they did add to the style that this movie presented with itself. This is a period piece, and the movie goes from taking place in the 1930s to the 1940s. A sense of time is not indicated that much with the film, but it wasn't that big of an issue for me. It is just a beautifully realized movie visually. The costume and set designs are astoundingly done. Some comic panels of Wonder Woman that came out of this era are even shown throughout this film. Of course, how can you not in a movie of the subject matter? More and more of those panels are shown once we get to the part of the movie where there's controversy arising not just from Marston's polyamorous relationship with his wife and a student, but also just in what content is even shown with Wonder Woman as a character and in her comics. It still was fascinating for me to see the way this movie is edited and paced is also more than competently done. The movie runs at about an hour and 48 minutes, but I was never bored. I was always into this movie because of how fascinated I was. I know I keep saying how fascinating I feel this movie is, but really that's what I can sum up the most about this movie as a whole. For how involved I was with this film, I don't really have that many issues with it. It is traditionally shot. There's nothing about this movie that speaks amazing cinematic wonders with it, but it is still a very good looking movie at that. I did mention before that we really don't get that much of a sense of time with this movie. It's no problem of the pacing, it's just the way the movie transpires as it goes along, because we do see a family develop out of these three leads together, and just, yeah, it was a little bit off-putting at that. But that in no way detracts in how I feel about this movie overall, because when it is all said and done, this was such a nice surprise for me. This is a movie that not only gave me more knowledge in something that happened in real life and inspiring such a cultural icon such as Wonder Woman, but in showing how one of the most believable romantic relationships I've seen in a movie this year involves a polyamorous three-way relationship. And if a movie is able to do that and convince me that it is believable, it is something special. 2017 does seem to be the year of Wonder Woman, as after we saw the big blockbuster success that was her movie this past summer, we now have a delightful biographical drama depicting how she was created by three intriguing real-life individuals. Simply put, Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman is wonderful. If you are at all interested in seeing how one of the most iconic female superheroes of all time was created, this is something you should see. I could really see other comic book fans or enthusiasts being invested with a film like this. Or if you are in the mood to see some powerful performances in an unorthodox setup with fantastic writing and direction, this is also a movie that you should see. I love this film. It is one of my favorite movies of 2017 thus far. I highly recommend it. My final verdict for Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman is 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.